What is up, beautiful people? This is Strawberry Tofu, and drawing Pokemon starters was the next video you guys voted for, so let's dive straight in. Obviously, comment your favorite design and what you think I should have changed below. Give me all the criticism, it's good for the algorithm. Or let me know what kind of clothing style the Gen 2 starter girlies would have, because like if this video does well, that's what I'll be doing next. Obviously, we're going to start off with Kanto Starters, so I guess I should show these in Pokedex order, starting with Bulbasaur. My theory was that each evolution trio would be like siblings of different ages. Now, please be nice to me. I haven't tried to draw a child in like maybe 15 years. I remember doing a commission of a kid my mum was childminding just before I went off to uni, maybe? So that would have been like 2008. So please be kind. This Bulbasaur is kind of rough while I remembered the proportions and like how much chubbier their arms and legs are, etc. I'd just watched Grave of the Fireflies. Great movie, but Jesus Christ, heartbreaking. But I figured that Bulbasaur in human form would give this kind of sweet and kind nature persona, kind of like the kid in that film. So we wanted a kind of shy pose, hence why we're heavily referencing here. Then for clothes, I figured this is an outdoor kind of kid. The family probably live on a farm or at least somewhere with a large garden and lots of access to the outdoors. So I looked up children's gardening clothes and nearly everyone was either in dungarees or like this over smock thing, which I hadn't really seen before. So that design caught my attention more. I originally gave them a sun hat because you don't want your kid getting sunburnt, and I originally figured I could translate the line language of Bulbasaur's bulb into like a round shaped bob. I can't remember what jogged my brain to think this, but at some point I had an epiphany. Does anyone else remember Keira Knightley's hat in the film Love Actually? Just in case you don't, obviously I'll put up a picture on the screen. Those style hats were everywhere in the mid 2000s. Like, I'm pretty sure I might have had one at some point, but you know what the shape is giving? Bulbasaur's bulb. So once I'd thought of that, I knew that was a must, and I added the little ear shapes because like in general ears on kids clothing is like more common than on adult clothing. I think the biggest thing that I struggled with Bulbasaur was the idea of the spots on it. Like, how do I incorporate that? And knowing I was going to have the same problem with Ivysaur too, so I ended up settling on like patches on the clothing. It made sense for an outdoorsy kind of kid to have patches, and I knew that ultimately I could go back to the design and rethink that if I needed to. So at that point, I kind of took a rest and moved on to the next one. And then while I was doing that, I remembered that, oh my god, I haven't looked up how the bloody hell you pronounce this word before recording. Vitiligo? How to pronounce vitiligo?
Vitiligo.
Vitiligo. Okay, learning something new today. So vitiligo, the spots. I was like, oh my god, that works so well. And then obviously that kind of decided the skin color of this family for me. But yeah, so I figured that either Bulbasaur or Ivysaur should probably have this condition, but like, if we're doing like a family trio, it doesn't make sense for more than one person to have that condition, vitiligo. So I had to think of like another skin condition where I could be like, well, it's not really a skin condition, but I had to think of like another skin aesthetic where I could like mimic that kind of, the kind of patches on Bulbasaur or Ivysaur. You know what? This should have come to me like really naturally, but it didn't, because I have them all over all over me, like freckles. Like, how hard was that to think up? I don't know why that took me so long. But yeah, obviously the vitiligo decided the skin color of this family for me, and while aesthetically this works really well against the green and pink color palette of these Pokemon, I do wish that I'd gone back now to adjust the hair, especially on Bulbasaur. Like, I already had the hat representing the bulb. The hair didn't need to do that work anymore. So replacing the hair with some sort of like cute curly hair would have been neither here nor there for the design and would have been better character design, I think. But I didn't think of that until much later, so I apologize for the poor representation now, and I'll make sure to correct that next time. After that, all the colors pretty much fell into place. I guess the bonus of working with Pokemon designs is I already have a really limited color palette, and bonus of that is some things are already decided for me, like the red eyes or that specific green of the bulb hat. Onto Ivysaur though. Going into Ivysaur, I mostly knew two things. One, I needed her to have a bit more attitude but still be wholesome. And two, I know I wanted the hair to be like one of those big ponytails, because that would mimic the flower petal line language well, you know, like Iono's hair, but like a singular one. So how to make her be more wholesome while still having attitude? Academia fashion. Looking back, I guess because I knew she was going to have the vitiligo going into it, I didn't really worry too much about having patches on the clothing. But looking back now, I actually really wish I'd put those sleeves down and given her patches on her elbows. Like, I love a tweed suit with elbow patches, but I digress. Obviously, I had a really clear idea of what I wanted to achieve here because this initial design went down quick. I ended up putting a hair bow style accessory on the back to A, give more academia, and B, get the line language of the leaves in there, but I didn't keep it the colour of the leaves because then it literally read as her just having leaves in her hair instead of a hair accessory. But honestly, I don't really know if there's anything more I can say here. The colour's laid down easy again, and I guess obviously with a clear idea comes quick execution. On the other side of that, I ended up doing 3 designs of Venusaur in total because I really wasn't happy. As the first adult I was drawing, the one thing I knew is that I wanted her to have some meat on her, considering all the Gen 1 starters are like really chunky. That honestly kind of gets lost in the final design under the clothes, but you'll see what I mean. I really don't know what I was doing with this first draft. like I think I was thinking cottagecore, but like the last hair on Ivysaur came out so well, so I was like, let's try that again, but double it. And then I kind of gave her a layered dress, also because like petal foliage line language, but this is just not it. No, ma'am. Especially because you hide the chunky legs under the huge skirt and flowy top bit, and then the ankles just look awkwardly big because you can't see the rest. So to try and fix all of that, we shortened the skirt, made it kind of more jaggedy so we can see more of the leg, but still layered because leaves, but accentuated the waist to make it like an elastic band, which means the top also ends up being tighter. Make it off the shoulder because this dress is giving more hippie. We're still trying to make the twin tails work for some reason, but kind of refined the shape language here and made them space buns. But I still wasn't happy, and I thought jewelry would fix that. The lesson here? Less is sometimes more. So I completely started over with a completely different pose just to move my mind away from whatever was going on here. I did realise this character design is the perfect design choice for glasses. So we started with a pose that could incorporate them. Then we went back to the drawing board and looked up gardening outfits, and surprise, surprise, just like the kids' ones, it was a lot of dungarees and then also aprons over dresses, which again, far more fun. So we did the elasticated waist again, gave the apron pockets because she needs a functional garment. I realised that the hair could emulate the foliage twofold, like made it a straight cut bob to give a similar line language as Venusaur's actual very straight petals, but then 2 long bits at the front for more of like a subtle leaf shape. A sun hat this time was actually perfect because we could fit the line language from the middle of Venusaur's flowers onto that, and then also a bow again because honestly, why not? Loads of sun hats have bows. Mine does. Some round big glasses and a flower in the pocket, and we were finally good to go. Although obviously this is another design I wish I would have thought about the skin colour while I was designing it, but again, we learn. Next up is the Charmander family. Alright, I won't lie, Charmander was the last child I drew, so by this point I was feeling much more comfortable. To me, Charmander is giving I'm brat, but I'm going to be cute about it so you can't hate me energy. So that's kind of what I wanted to emulate in the pose. I had to sit on this outfit idea for a minute. Like, what gives tail without being a tail? Pretty sure I had to sleep on this. And then I got up the next day and only did up one side of my dungarees and heard the swoosh behind me of the spare strap. And I was like, that is it. But like, let's make them short because fire typing, they're living in a warm place of some sort, and I really didn't know what to do for the rest of the clothing and hair apart from sandals cause warm. But I do enjoy the teeth I did because there's always a stage in like a child's life where they are more gum than tooth, and Charmander only has like these 2 little teeth, so that made me smile. Turns out figuring out the colours of this line was a little more tricky because then they kind of overstepped the boundary into too limited. Like, apart from the fire, I've got pale orange and beige, and that's it. I mean, the beige actually worked really well here because like warm place, linen dungarees, but the hair and the sandals both had to be colourfully picked from the flame itself. Looking back, I kind of wish I'd played with the hair a little more again, because flame language is quite wavy, so I really should have done that, but like, I'm happy with the rest. Alright, next up is Charmeleon. You're going to have to forgive me for this initial sketch. Sometimes it is not a good idea to power through art block, and this is exactly why. The initial pose, good. The then placement of the hair on that pose, terrible. I really had no idea what I was doing for this. I feel like Charmeleon is traditionally the angriest of the first middle Evos, so I wanted like moody emo kind of vibes. The hair is what really tripped me up here the most. I had to find a way to emulate that single spike on the hair, and all I could think of was like the samurai ponytail where it's kind of bandaged up into a stick coming out of the head. I'm pretty sure my brain was thinking it was from like a Soul Calibur character or something, but I'll show a picture on the screen of what I was trying to do. But then like, I could make the hair really long because tail without having a tail, but make it emo, but hot weather, you can see how it all fell apart. That is just too many convoluting ideas. Plus throw in some art block and like, I want to vomit at this first draft. So again, slept on it. And then my partner said, what about Aki's hair from Chainsaw Man? And I was like, oh my God, that is perfect. So again, we want moody teenager, but that hairstyle isn't exactly giving emo. And like, Tofu, we don't live in the mid-2000s anymore. So what kind of fashion do I see advertised online nowadays? Tech wear. I actually love tech wear. I think it's so cool. And like, the pose didn't end up coming out too moody, but we're rolling with it. Although while I did have emo on the mind, I did figure out how to emulate tail without a tail here. Really long belt. So I kind of worked around that. I found a picture of this techwear jumpsuit that had like really long straps on the pockets and on the belt. And I was like, oh, okay, that works. Plus then it's like a single piece, so I don't have to worry about the very limited color palette as much. Some chunky shoes and we called it a day. Maybe we didn't go so like hot place themed here, but you know, as an emo teenager, I would wear black all year round. Like, teenagers will go through it for the sake of fashion. The colours on Charmeleon I think were the most tricky out of everyone, hence why I had to get like both the older and the newer colour palettes up on the screen. Did you know that the older one at the top colour picks at that jumpsuit colour? Like, kind of like a peach? And even the stomach looks like beige, but in fact it colour picks as pastel pink. Wild, but it does make for a cute jumpsuit. And then obviously we had to colour pick from the fire for the hair. I think after everything, this hair has been by far my favourite interpretation, so thank you Chainsaw Man for the inspiration. Oh, and in case you haven't noticed already, shoes are something I really struggle with, but like, sue me, we're learning. Last of the fire trio is obviously Charizard. We also went through a couple of design choices going into this. One thing I knew that I wanted going into this one was to have a smaller chest, but like be thick round the hips, because that is the shape that Charizard is giving. But that was literally the only thing I was clear about in my mind. I think because we had Samurai on the mind when first doing our draft of looking at Charmeleon's hair for ages, that my brain jumped to ninja. Because originally I was just trying to figure out how to give wings without wings, and my brain jumped to huge scarf. And then I really don't know how we went from there to ninja. But either way, once I started to try and pin down the details, I realized, no, this is just way too extra. Like, I want these girlies to be able to exist in the real world. So instead, massive hoodie round the waist, and tail, super long but thin ponytail. Because of the hoodie round the waist, I figured she'd be more athletic, but like casual athleisure with a hint of tech wear. And then the final details are really the headphones that incorporate the head spikes, because like there are so many headphones with like cat ears and stuff on them, so why not head spike headphones? And spiky teeth like zips, so that we're like really screaming that dino dragon kind of energy here, even though Charizard is notoriously neither of those. I think the only thing that really tripped me up with the colouring was the turquoise inner wing colour, because I think in my head I had it that was going to be on the inside of the hoodie because the hoodie was meant to kind of represent the wings, but then everything else being variants of orange just does not work. And the turquoise is a heavier and darker colour, so to give the outfit some gravity, it made sense to be the trouser colour. And finally, the Squirtle squad. Going into Squirtle, the things I knew I wanted were Ponyo-like energy, happy but sweet, and I knew that bags were going to be essential for the shells. I knew I wanted some cute Wellington boots as well. Like, I saw these ones on Pinterest that had little handles on them and they were too cute to ignore. I figured a cute little dress with a big front pocket would make sense because then I could kind of emulate the shapes on the shell easily there, and a rain hat was necessary. And I knew I wanted like super round shaped hair to obviously match the roundness of Squirtle and like the swirl that it's in its tail. As you can see, it obviously came together all pretty easily while still being pretty uniform in design. Like, somehow everything just fell into place. Not that I'm complaining, I just don't really have much else I can say about her. So, moving on to Wartortle. Wartortle's energy is giving, I may be a teenager, but I know everything about everything. So that's the kind of energy we tried to emulate in the pose. Again, I knew I needed a bag for the shell, but I figured a crossover body bag might make more sense for a teenager to wear regularly than a massive rucksack. Other than that, the two other things I knew I wanted to incorporate into Wartortle's design were shorts, because like the way his little leggies stick out of the shell is kind of giving short energy anyway. And I knew I wanted like mini pigtails sticking out of the hair to emulate the shape language of the... What are we calling these things on Wartortle's head? Like, are they ears? Are they fluff? Are they wings? I've got no idea. Somebody please tell me. I literally can't even remember my reasoning for the top type. I just knew I didn't want it to be anything too complicated because the bag and the hair were going to be the detailed things. Speaking of hair, as you'll see, that was by far the biggest struggle getting the sketch down. But I really wanted to make sure I got the line language of the tail in there as well. Even Wartortle's tail on just like a physical scientific, like I don't know how that works. Like how is that all connecting? It's a great design, I love it, but my brain can't really read how it works very well. But we tried our best and I'm happy with the outcome. I guess I kind of wanted her to look like she could go hiking with her big sister because I knew exactly what I wanted for Blastoise in my head. And with that, last one, finally, Blastoise. Another one I had a really clear idea of in my head. Like, we were going for a literal Pokemon hiker trainer, but like make it blue chunky girl. Blastoise obviously had to be thick. I mean, look at him. And the huge shell we could emulate with a huge hiking backpack easily, and the cannons can be done with like a rolled up sleeping bag or something on top of the bag. So the rest was just really figuring out the exact hiking outfit. I figured we'd need like a long sleeved kind of bubble jacket for Blastoise's like Michelin Man arms, or at least something with a puffy sleeve. And then unlike Wartortle and Squirtle, I didn't need to worry about putting stitch lines into the clothing for the tummy pattern because I had two natural lines going across the body from the hiking rucksack and the belt. The cute hat with the ear shapes was definitely like a why the hell not kind of thing in all honesty. And I think she came out really well. Again, I think the tummy size kind of got lost in the clothing. So I think that's something that I like definitely need to work on next time. Like, I want my big characters to look big. But in general, I would say I managed to execute what I had in my head, so I'm pretty happy here. And here's all of our families all grouped together. You're gonna have to let me know who your favorite design is or which family group you like the best. I think for me, it's definitely the Charmander line. Like, after the journey I went on changing two of their designs, I'm just really chuffed with how both Charmeleon and Charizard came out in the end. I think that going forward, I've definitely got to learn to not be scared of making thick characters even thicker, because apparently clothing does miracle at hiding size. And obviously, the first thing I need to figure out is the ethnicity of a person, so I can be more aware of how that affects my designs going forward. Obviously, I'd love to hear all your feedback, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. And thanks for watching as always. So stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.